As the U.S. and Iran are at a stalemate over peace talks, let's bring in former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper to break down where things might go next. Secretary, great to have you. So the CENTCOM commander visited the White House this week and laid out different options for the president on what he might want to do next. What do you think those options included?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's probably a resumption of hostilities as we have seen over the last 8 weeks, which would mean a coordinated air and naval campaign with Israel against any variety of military and political targets throughout the whole of Iran. That's number one. Number two might be a more limited operation in the sense that it's geographically focused on the Strait of Hormuz, where we try to dislodge Iranian naval units, Iranian cruise missile defense, coastal defense units all along the strait, so we could free it up and make sure that, to the degree possible, the Iranians are no longer able to threaten commercial shipping. So to me, that's the range of options. There are others in between there that might work, but it seems like right now that while the president is reluctant to resume conflict and rather let the economic sanctions take some more effect.
Yeah, the economic sanctions, they are hurting Iran very much. I want to ask you about this headline that caught my attention this week, because there has been some concerns on Capitol Hill about weapons and being ready for the long haul if we have to be. This is on hypersonic missiles. It says the U.S. wants to use hypersonic missiles on Iran. Problem is, it may not work. Although it completed some successful tests in 2024, the Dark Eagle repeatedly failed to launch during other tests because of launcher and production quality issues. And an unnamed defense official told Fox News that the weapon has reached initial operational capability, but the Pentagon testing office says it won't have enough data to evaluate Dark Eagle's combat effectiveness until at least early 2027. This new sophisticated hypersonic missile, is this something that the U.S. is behind on that you're aware of? And do we know if countries like China and Russia have these?
So Russia and China do have hypersonic weapons. It's hard to really understand completely what they can do, their capabilities, their reliability, so forth and so on. We have hypersonic weapons in development as well. It started at least during my era when I was Secretary of the Army in 2017 and 2018. And they are effective systems, and I have no problem testing them in this scenario. As you may know, we tested what was called the PRISM long-range rocket system not long ago against Iran. It was another system developed during my time, or launched during my time at least. So, look, I think a conflict like this can be a good testing ground for weapon systems. When it comes to munitions, though, I'm far more concerned about the state of play with regard to THAAD and Patriot, JASSMs, LRASMs, the whole panoply of high-end missiles that we've expended through not just this conflict, but sharing with Israel, providing to Ukraine, so forth and so on. Our defense industrial base is not in the shape it needs to be for the long haul, particularly if we get in some type of extended conflict with China, and that's what concerns me most.
We have some Patriot missiles in Poland, too. I remember I was at the border when the war started on Ukraine. I saw them. I mean, they're incredible in person, and we're supposed to, I don't know if we have yet, give weapons to Taiwan as well, because there's a threat of China. So, yeah, we're expended in multiple different places, which is why I think that the Secretary of War and the Pentagon is asking for $1.5 trillion in a brand new budget. Democrats have a big problem with this number, but they also have a problem with the firings happening within the Pentagon. This is Democrat Senator Jack Reed blasting Pete Hegseth this week on Capitol Hill. Let's watch.
You are hollowing out the military's bench of experienced and highest performing senior officers while making young officers wonder if they should continue to serve. My colleagues and I have heard from countless service members throughout the ranks, many of whom will be watching right now, who are confused and disturbed by your actions.
I want you to respond to that, Secretary. What do you think of these firings? And when you were there problems?
I don't recall having problems with any of the four-star admirals and generals to the effect that has been alleged over the last year or so. You know, the person of contention in the hearing was General Randy George, who I've known for many years. He was division commander when I was Secretary of the Army. He is one of the finest officers I have ever known and is well respected. And what they were pressing on was what was the rationale for his firing. And I think that's a good question. I think that's fair for Congress to ask. The reporting was that Hegseth and the Army Secretary Dan Driscoll were at odds at this. And so I think these are fair questions to ask. Every time you fire a general officer or an admiral, you're losing anywhere from 30 to 40 years of experience. Doesn't mean you shouldn't, but I think it has to be carefully evaluated, not just with regard to the impact on the person, but arguably more importantly on the unit and the rest of the officer corps.
Is it a question that Democrats should use to hold up the Pentagon budget, especially in the middle of this conflict?
Well, no, I don't think that's sufficient. But keep in mind, both Republicans and Democrats were asking these questions the other 2 days, on Wednesday and Thursday. So it wasn't just Democrats. There's, again, a lot of concern about personnel turnover, such as happened over the last 12, 15 months. So, again, I think those are fair questions to ask. And I was asked at times with regard to personnel that had changed during my tenure. So it's not unusual.
Okay. Secretary, great to have you. Great to see you. And we'll have you back on soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.